He doesn't know really what's going on. He's just like, I'm just here to protect people. I'm a bodyguard, basically. I'm a very fancy bodyguard. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten and we're at the start of another weekly reading vlog, and this week we're actually taking part in the full moon readathon, which is hosted by Jan. I'll have her details linked below. She has created this 2-week readathon, and part of the readathon is collecting different characters, which you do by completing different reading prompts, and there's also a third prompt which is like an extra non-reading prompt, which I think is like part of taking a photo on Instagram stuff. I'm not sure about that one, but the reading prompts I'm very excited for. You can double up on all the reading prompts, which is great. So I have 2 books that's actually fulfilling 2 characters, which is the devil and the vampire, which is amazing. So that's what I'm going to try and focus on for the next 2 weeks. This week I'm going to be reading one of these. I am slightly intimidated because they are some chunky books, but I'm so excited for both of them. So let me run through what they actually stand for. Engines of Chaos works for the devil prompt of something to do with fire on the title or on the cover, and we have a bit of burnt cloth here, which works in that case of being burnt from fire. It also works for a vampire prompt of a supernatural creature, because there are these like witches type beings within this world, so that's what I've gone for with this. So that works for 2. And then the last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie works for the devil being a morally grey character. We have loads of those in this book, and also for the vampire, blood, something to do with blood on the cover or in the title. So again, perfect. I don't know which one of these 2s I'm going to start off with. I am excited for both, and I think I'll go into details about what they are depending on what one I read. I would love to say I'm going to read both this week, but I think I'm going to do one each week and then pair it with something lighter to read as well. So we're definitely going to be reading one of these, and then potentially prompt for another of the characters, which is actually the skeleton. And there's 2 prompts for this, so you can read a hardback book, and you also, if a book is between 206 to 300 pages, because that's like to do with when we're born we have more bones and then they fuse as we get to adults. It was a really interesting fact. I thought that was really smart. So I might read one of the 2 books from that. The hardback book I don't think is actually going to work, because the hardback book that I want to read, let me grab it, is Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong, and this is the Discord book club for the month. So because we're going to be reading this over the course of the month, it's not technically going to fit with this prompt because I'll only be halfway through at the end of the readathon, but it is a hardback book. Saying that, I do have other hardback books, so I may be able to squeeze that one in. We should be starting this book soon. I'm not sure if we're going to be starting it this week or next week, what works for everyone on the Discord channel, but yeah, I'm very excited about this one as well. Again, talk about it more when I've read it. So then that leaves me with one other book, which is How We Fall Apart by Katie Zhao, and this one works for the book between 206 to 300 pages. I may actually, do I try and find a hardback book that works for this prompt for both of them? I don't know. Anyway, I'm planning on picking up, like I said, one of these 2 books. I will be doing that later today, and then also pairing it with a lighter book. That's the plan for this week. We'll see if it actually happens or not. I'm notoriously bad at sticking to plans, although last week's plan worked and I did actually finish 3 books and it was a really good reading week and I stuck to the plan. So that was a win. We'll see if it happens this week, but please do let me know if you're taking part in the full moon readathon. It is such a fun time and Jan is such a lovely person. She has great content, so definitely go check her out. But yes, I think that will do for the start of this one. I've had a really nice relaxing morning. I've actually already been up for 5 hours. It's only 11:30, so I was up nice and early at 6:30, and I have had the most relaxing morning. I was finishing off a book that is in last week's vlog, which I wrapped up this morning, and I also made some kind of like Reese's Pieces, so it's like this peanut butter base with chocolate on top, and I made my own version of that. I'm really excited to try them and see if they're any good, and I was making that at 8:30 this morning, so clearly see where my mind's at. I may be going out this afternoon, but it also looks like it's about to pour it down, so the plans may get cancelled, which if they do, I'm not particularly upset about that either. It's going to be hopefully a chill day, but we'll see what we get up to. I hope you're all doing really well. Let me know what you've been up to, what you're reading. As I said, if you're taking part in the full moon readathon, all those usual things, but I think we're good for this update. Starting it, intro. There we go. I'm gonna chill, disappear, and I'll catch up with you when I've read something. Oh my gosh, it's nail day tomorrow. So excited, so excited. I have to admit, these nails, they're nice, but they were not my favourite nails. So I'm very excited to get them changed and to go for something different. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. For now, I actually have some filming to do and we'll go from there about what happens. I'm still talking to you. I said I was going to go like a whole minute ago and I'm still going. We're used to that on this channel. I will go now though. Hope you enjoy and I'll catch up with you soon. Few days since I've last updated and it has been a busy few days, to be honest. What have I been up to? You know what? It's one of those things where I just don't know. Okay, so Sunday we started the day early. I did get some editing done, which was really good, and I also got some filming done, did a bit of reading. So that was a pretty good day. Those peanut things, yeah, they didn't quite work out how I wanted. I was aiming for Reese's and instead I got more of like a chocolate digestive with an undertone of peanut butter flavour, which isn't a bad thing, but it wasn't quite what I was going for. And that would have been really good if they were thin, but because I did it as big, because I wanted a big Reese's cupcake, it then didn't work, so I had this giant thick biscuit and yeah, so it didn't really work. To be fair, I am not someone that's very good with cooking sweet things. It's just not something I'm good at, unfortunately. Savoury, I can do. Sweet, not so much, which is why you never really see it, because I'm not so good at that. You know, it was worth a try. Monday and yesterday were just busy days, getting loads of bits done, but I have started a book and I decided to go with The Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie. Now, obviously this is for the full moon readathon anyway, so it works really well, but I've also realised how big my August TBR is and how many like buddy reads and book club reads and things like that I've got going on, and I am a little bit overwhelmed. I was telling my partner about it and he was like, yeah, you're never finishing this. And I was like, maybe. So I decided, you know what, we're going to tackle this one. One, it's the bigger one out of the two books that I wanted to read, and I figure if I can do one each week, then that's good. And I have made quite good progress. I am very pleased with this. So I'm now on page 256. They don't have chapter numbers, it's always chapter names. This is a really grimdark series. Like, Joe Abercrombie is kind of the king of grimdark, and I'm really enjoying this. Can I tell you what it's about? No, and not just because it's a third book in the series, but because there is literally no plot. This is a book that you're following different characters and there are different things going on, but there's no reason as to why these things are going on, if that makes sense. So let's dial it back. So you get the first book, and in the first book you have the three main characters. One is called Giselle, and he is a arrogant socialite that looks down on others and is very much like a I'm better than everybody else, and that's the way it is. You then have Glocta, who is a torturer, and he used to be what Giselle was. He used to be this arrogant person, used to fight in the king's army until he got caught by the Gurkish and then was tortured for 2 years. As a result, he is in immense pain every single day, and he has turned into a torturer for the government of the Union. His perspective is probably the darkest perspective because of all like the torture scenes that you get, but also I think the most introspective, where he does question, happened to me, why am I then inflicting it onto others? And he does do a lot of moralizing, but at the end of the day still does the very questionable things. So filled with morally grey characters. And then the third perspective that you get is called Logan, and he is from the north. He is seen as a wild Northman, and he gets tangled up in the first Magi, so the first sorcerer. Magic in this world is pretty much non-existent. They don't really believe in it anymore. It was definitely something that was prevalent like hundreds of years ago, but not so much anymore. But Logan gets caught up with this sorcerer and things go from there. So those are the three main perspectives you get, and they do interact at times. Like you end up with Giselle and Logan and the first sorcerer, and they all go off on this quest in the second book. You do have Glokta meeting the different individuals, but they're not actually on a plot line together. It's all kind of crossing over one another. Glokta's perspective is a lot more about the politics of things. Because he's a torturer for the government, you end up seeing a lot of the politics of what's going on, the more intricate details, and it gives you a bit of an insight because there's two wars going on. We've got a war with the Northmen, and we have a king that's risen up that's like determined to take over, determined to take on the Union, and so you have a war from the north on the Union. You then have a war coming up from the south, from across the sea, with the Gurkish again, and they're rising up since the last battle, and you have these two things going on simultaneously. So the Union's kind of stuck in the middle and a bit screwed. At the same time, the Union's still got their politics, their plates that are spinning. And so from Glokta's perspective, you see how people in the Union, the bureaucrats, do not care about this war. They just see it as numbers of men, go, deal with this, and we're going to get back to the petty squabbling that we do, and no one's really going to focus on the big issue of having these two potential wars going on. And it's not even potential, you have one war that is going on. And you just see how pointless it all is, how life is not really respected or regarded in that way, and so that's mainly Glokta's perspective. Giselle kind of flips in between, depending on where he is at the time. You then, towards the end of the first book, going into second book, and in this third book, you get more perspectives. You get different perspectives from different Northmen. You get a perspective from West, who is Giselle's, I'm gonna say, friend. They're sort of friendly terms with one another. West doesn't really like him, but has to listen to Giselle when he's like friendly enough. You get his perspective, and he ends up in the war with the Northmen, and you're seeing his perspective on it. So you're getting a lot, and you're seeing how all of these perspectives are high stakes when it comes to the war, how much is going on, the grittiness, the mayhem of it all. And you just realise, yeah, no one cares about what you're going through. No one actually cares. So it's a book that makes you go, what's the point? And that's the point of the book. It really does make you go, what's the point of all these wars? What's the point of all these things? People just care more for their petty little squabblings that they have rather than people's lives. The plot lines themselves just kind of Miranda, they're wandering. It's very much a character study of these different things, and then as a reader you're getting a bird's eye view of everything and realising how little any of it actually makes sense. There is no point to any of this. The war is pointless, the politics are pointless, everything is pointless, but it's done really well. Like, I really enjoy it. Like, I've already sped through quite a few pages of this, and I do find when I sit there I can easily sit there for an hour to 2 hours and just read more of it, which is the plan this morning. I managed to get the editing that I needed all done last night, which is really good. I mean, I've still got one video for Sunday, but it's just given me a day off this morning because I do have work later today. So I've got a few hours before I need to leave, and so I'm planning to hopefully I would love a minimum of 100 pages because then I get this finished this week. However, I would really love it if I got maybe like 150 pages read. That would be amazing. That would give me a good chunk further into this, and it allows me for any days like tomorrow where I have got a bit more to do. If I don't get to read as much, it's not so much of an issue. I need to check with Chris. I'll have a channel linked below because we're meant to be buddy reading a book. So I just need to see if she's got her copy, if she wants to start, like when she wants to start buddy reading that. So again, I feel like this camera's a bit too high. But yeah, I've been mentioning so many different books without actually going into detail of them, just because I have so many that I need to read this month, and a lot I don't know when is starting just yet. But at least I'm making progress with one of the biggest books on my TBR, so that is a good start. So I'm going to get to reading all of this, head to work later, and catch up with you when I've read a bit more, and if I've started any other books, which potentially maybe, depending on when all the different buddy reads and book club reads start. I'm not actually sure though. have made quite significant progress with The Last Argument of Kings. I now only have 200 pages to go. I'm on page 472, and at this point I can still say there's no plot. There's nothing really happening to it. However, I have a theory. And obviously I am 200 pages away from finishing, so I feel like this is potentially what this book series is setting out to do. And that is Joe Abercrombie exploring the cyclical nature of life, but in a really melancholic way, with obviously following different characters that are extremely morally grey and make extremely questionable decisions. But it just shows you how everything repeats itself. And it's made comment of quite a lot throughout this series that there's been past wars exactly like this, that we've had a king in the north rise up and go against the Union before, we've had the battle with the Gurkish before. All of these things have come before, and that is what this book is really highlighting, is history repeats itself and it sucks, but also we just make do with the best that we can in the situation that we have. And I think that's what we're exploring. We're just exploring the fact that everything cycles through. And I feel like in particular with characters, that certain things that are happening, I feel like that's extremely true, because there are certain things, I don't want to give away spoilers and stuff, but there are certain things with particular characters where you're just seeing, well, you're now just following in your predecessor's footsteps, like exactly. So it's just going to repeat itself, and I feel like that's the point of this book, this series, is the way it does all repeat itself, and there's nothing to do about that. You can't change it. It's just the way of things, and you make do with the best that you can. I could be wrong, and it could be a complete like out of nowhere plot wrap up at the end of this book, but I also feel like there's not going to be. I don't think there's going to be a nice little bow at the end of this book. I think it's going to end in a way where everything, you could reread this series and it almost be with different characters, but knowing that all the same plot lines are going to happen. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but I feel like the way it's going to leave off is that you could go back to the first book and read it through and it would make complete sense without having to restart a series. That being said, I'm still really enjoying it. I'm still really enjoying the exploration of our characters. I binged this so easily. I feel like the last few weeks I haven't, actually no, that's not true. I feel like sometimes I go through a book where I just can't sit there and binge read 100 pages in one sitting. It will happen every so often, like last week it did happen with Tress of the Emerald Sea, but this book is one of those books that I can do that with, and I found that with all of these books. And don't get me wrong, the characters aren't likeable, it's gritty, it's dark, it's grim, but there's something about it that I just don't want to put it down, and I find it so compelling to read. And I also, another thing that I want to talk about is the way Joe Abercrombie writes war scenes and fight scenes. I feel like it's done so well. They feel so claustrophobic, they feel so chaotic, but done in such a way where it's so believable. I really enjoy the way he writes his battle scenes. I think it's done really well. It kind of takes away all the glamour of things and just shows you that pure grit and what it can actually be like to get caught up. Fantastic. Really think it's an amazing book. I'm really pleased to say that I'm making good progress and I am on track to finish this for this week, which is perfect. I did start Cassill's Servant by Jacqueline Carey and I am reading this with Chris. I'm now on chapter 16, page 115, and I'm loving this. It is really good. So Cassill's Servant is kind of, hang on, let me explain this properly for you. So Jacqueline Carey wrote Cashel's Dart, and this is a series that I read when I was in college and absolutely loved it, to the point where my first copy of this book fell apart, so I had to buy a new copy. This is such a complex political fantasy book, but with love woven in. We're in Terre d'Ange, which I've always seen as kind of like France, almost like an alternate history that's going on. And in this book, the trilogy, and we're following Phaedre, and she ends up growing up to become a courtesan in this religion society is love as thou wilt. And so some children go into Namar's service, which is then to become these refined courtesans, but somehow Phaedre ends up getting caught up in a stack load of politics alongside all of this. The politics and everything is absolutely amazing. During this book, she ends up with a companion called Jocelyn, and Jocelyn is Cassill's servant. So you have have some of the religion and the different followers worship in like pleasure, and you have different houses that represent the different gods and goddesses and the way they would do that. And then you have Casil's servant, and Casil's servant is seen as the most pure servant because they take a vow of celibacy and they're there to protect their companion, just like when the gods and goddesses were walking around on the earth, Casil would protect Ula, chosen god. It's a complex religious thing, but it's explained so well, so much better than what I can do. I butcher it every time, I'm sorry. Jocelyn and Deirdre end up together and they go off on this massive adventure, and in the first trilogy you're seeing it all from Deirdre's perspective, and now Casil's servant is taking place at the same time as Casil's dance, but you're seeing it from Jocelyn's perspective. Now I have to admit, when I was looking at this book I was a bit concerned because this book is 900 pages long. Casil's servant is only 500 pages long, just over. So I'm a little bit concerned because it means that we lose out on a lot of the information that you got in here. However, it does also make a lot of sense. Seeing Jocelyn get taken into training house, a place to go where the children learn to become Casil's servants, like they're priests and warriors, go through this really strict regime of training and stuff. So we're seeing that. As a result, he is very cut off from the politics, so you don't see that. He gets like little drips and drabs here and there. But this, you're seeing Deirdre get caught up in the politics so much deeper, and so it does make sense that this is longer because of that, because there's so much politics to understand with this. That's why it takes a little bit longer. Whereas in Casil's servant, at this point, chapter 16, he's just about to meet Deirdre, which was so much later in this book because so much has happened, but it doesn't affect him, and so it does make sense that it's quicker, and it shows how blissfully ignorant he actually is. But he does get told that once he's passed all his training and everything, that he is now going to be the perfect companion to a pair of courtesans, and he's a bit like, excuse me, what now? Because they're the fallen, they've gone down the wrong path, they're misguided, we are the perfect companions, and you're now telling me I've got to protect them? And they're just like, your vow is obedience, so how about you obey and go off and do this thing? So he does. I'm so excited. I left it deliberately at the point where he's going to meet Deirdre because I'm so excited for it. I do think we're going to see repetitions of scenes from this book in Casil's servant, but I kind of want that because if they're cut out, it doesn't make sense. Basically, Casil's servant is for the fangirls, for the ones that love this series so goddamn much. Like, you really do. However, I was dubious. I was thinking to myself, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like it because I haven't always liked it when they've done book from the male perspective in other series, but I don't know, I'm really enjoying this. I'm loving it, and I'm really enjoying seeing Jocelyn and seeing his gentle ways, his patience, also the things that's made him struggle and the reason why he seems this such calming figure. When I was first reading these books, he did always come across as this figure that was really quite stern and cut off from emotions and very strict, and you're seeing the reason why for all of that, and also understanding Casil's path more, because Deirdre didn't understand it. She understood Namar's way, the different explorations of love, and really taken to that tenet of love as thou wilt, which is what the religion is based on. But you never really saw Casil in this because she didn't understand it, and so it's really nice to get a deeper understanding of that and the way they view things. It's great. I'm loving it. That's made good progress with that. It's going to be definitely one that I think I'm going to carry on into next week, and I'm loving being able to talk to Chris about it. It's so good when you have a book that you enjoy so much and then you have a friend where you can actually talk about it and you two can just go on these long tangents and things about the book because you're enjoying it so much. Like, I love being able to share that moment. Anyway, yesterday I did take some stuff to the charity shop. I've been doing a bit of a declutter of my room. Definitely needs it. It's amazing how much stuff just accumulates. I took some stuff to the charity shop, and then of course I had to have a look around at their books, and I ended up picking up a book. I was debating between this one and also, I think I showed you in the B-roll, Anthony and Cleopatra by William Shakespeare. However, I ended ended up putting it down because I'm not actually a fan of the Shakespeare plays in this Oxford Classics edition. I prefer reading them in the Penguin Black Spline editions, which is not often that I'd say that. Normally I love these Oxford World Classics, but in those, there's something about the plays that I find so much easier to read in the Black Spline editions than in these. I did pick up one book, and that's Thomas Hardy, A Pair of Blue Eyes. And I picked this up because it's Thomas Hardy. I really like Thomas Hardy books. I have read 2 of his books now, and I think I've got another 2, I think now another 2 on my TBR to read, and I'm very, very excited. I don't know what this one is about. From Thomas Hardy, I expect beautiful English countryside depictions alongside some slightly depressing love story going on, but done in such a beautiful way. Well, let's see what it says though. Okay, we have Elfriede is the daughter of Rector of Endlestowe, a remote sea-swept parish in Cornwall based on St. Juliet, where Hardy began the book during the first days of his courtship of his first wife, Emma. Blue-eyed and high-spirited, Elfriede has little experience of the world beyond and becomes entangled with 2 men, the boyish architect Stephen Smith and the older literary man Henry Knight. The former friends become rivals and Elfriede faces an agonising choice. Written at a crucial time in Hardy's life, A Pair of Blue Eyes expresses more directly than any of his novels the events and social forces that made him the writer he was. Elfriede's dilemma mirrors the difficult decision Hardy himself had to make with this novel, to pursue the profession of architecture where he was established, or literature where he had yet to make his name. That sounds really interesting. Seems to have some sort of love triangle, and in a really heartbreaking way, normally. And it does do a lot of social commentary on women's standing and conflicting nature of societal expectations. So yeah, I have high hopes for this one, and I'm very excited to add to my Thomas Hardy collection. I love Thomas Hardy books. I think they're absolutely amazing. I think my favourite that I've read so far is probably Far From the Madding Crowd, because it's a little bit more happier than Tessa the D'Urbervilles, but both of them have been fantastic. Anyway, I've been talking for almost 20 minutes. I do have things to do today, so I should probably get on and do those and then head off to work, but I'm so excited with both the books that I'm reading. They're both epic fantasies. We've got one that's a bit more political. Actually, no, they're both political fantasies in a way, because Last Argument of Kings has political fantasy when we're following Glockta. Cassil's Servant is more wholeheartedly political fantasy, like there's so, if it follows, I don't even really say that. Anyway, I'm enjoying both. They're both epic fantasy. They both got politics and stuff in, but Last Argument of Kings is undoubtedly darker read, so it's quite nice having the 2 that are lighter. I also wouldn't read 2 epic fantasies together like this. I like to pair my books with something heavier and something lighter. However, because Cassil's Servant is pretty much a reread for me, just from a different perspective, I'm finding it easy to follow and having 2 epic fantasies at the same time, which is quite nice. That's good to know. Anyway, right, I need to stop talking. I really need to get going. With regards to the full moon readathon, which is what this vlog actually is, I mean, we're going to get 2 prompts done because of this book, which obviously does one for Dracula and one for the devil, but I really wanted to get another one done for the skeleton, but I don't think I'm going to have time to do that this week. We'll see. I might surprise myself. I don't think I'm going to be able to, although I do need to do the 2 lifestyle prompts, so we might have a look at that and see what they are. Try and do that maybe this morning. I don't know. We'll see. I've got a lot to do and I'm still talking, so I should just go. Let's just go. We'll sort all this out later. Morning. I have finished a book and I'm so happy with it. So I did finish The Last Argument of Kings, and okay, I really liked this. I can say a lot of people may not. It's very much what I thought it was going to be in the last update. It's a book with no plot, with no purpose, with no point, and instead this series is just looking at the lives of different people that get caught up in life and all the rubbish that gets thrown at them and how they're dealing with it and the impossible situations that they're in. But it does mean that this book feels like it has no proper ending. It's left in a way where it could easily continue, and I think that's the point of this book, is it continues for all of time because this is life, just a particularly dark aspect of life. I think could leave you feeling a bit like, oh, well, what was the point then? There was like no need to this, there's no proper ending. I didn't mind it. Weirdly, normally that sort of thing would bother me, but this time I really didn't mind it. Instead, I just really enjoyed the way this was done. I really enjoyed the character exploration. I really enjoyed how it left off to the point where everything could just re-happen again. Like if you did it again and just changed the character name, it's the same story just happening again and again and again. I kind of don't mind that. I just really liked our characters. I love reading about them and I thought it was great. That being said, would I continue on with other books in this world? I don't know if I would. It's not because I haven't liked it, but because I think I liked these characters so much, I don't really want to read about the same thing with other characters. I don't know. You'll have to let me know whether you think it's worth it if you've read other Joe Abercrombie books and like his further works. I think there's a couple of standalones and stuff in the series. You'll have to let me know whether it's worth picking up. I kind of liked this trilogy and finished another series for the year, which is amazing. I think that brings my total up to like 4 or 5 series for the whole year. It's not great progress considering how many I've started, but I got another one done, which is really good. Thank you once again to Eric for letting me borrow this one. But yeah, this was great. Really pleased I finished it. And then Casil's Servant, I'm now up to page 180 something. 181, chapter 24. And I'm really enjoying this one. However, I was saying to Chris that I kind of wish it would slow down a bit, and I think it's going to from now, but this first 180 pages has been very fast in a way. So if you compare it, obviously for me, I've read Cashel Dart. What's happened in these first 180 pages honestly took Cashel Dart a good 300 pages. Understandable because it was a different perspective and you get more intricate politics on that side of things. However, it does feel like it's a bit sped up, and I think it could be very confusing if you hadn't read Cashel Dart. So initially I was thinking, oh, this is a really nice, easy way to get into this series without all the really intricate politics, which can be a little bit of like a thing to get your head around. I also feel like because Joycelyn doesn't know all of the politics properly, he's left a bit confused and not sure what's going on, and I feel like that could be frustrating for a reader. But because I've read it, I understand what's going on and I understand the things that are linking together. However, from this bit, it should go a bit slower because I mean, we're 180 pages in, it's a 500 plus page book. Bits that are left to happen, I think we will be seeing more of what's going on because I can't give away spoilers and stuff, but basically there's things that happen that Joycelyn and Theodore get caught up in, and some of it they're no longer like together fully. Joycelyn is a part of it, so you'll see a different side to things, but I don't actually know whether I would say this is a good place to start. Like initially I did think that, but I don't know if I would anymore. I'm loving this book because I love the characters in this world, and I'm really excited to get another book that's about these characters. And while it's not changing the events that have happened, it's not doing anything like adding to that, it's really nice to see the other side of things and to have a bit of perspective around a character that ends up being so central to the story. For that, I'm loving it, but I think that's because I love the series so much. Like, it is one of my favourites. It's something that, I mean, it's like Sarah J Maas. You have her books and some of them just think, well, they're not even properly written anymore, they're no longer properly edited, and all of those are valid comments to make. However, I love the characters, and so I will continue reading whatever she puts out just because I enjoy seeing them so much. And this kind of feels the same. I don't think this is Jacqueline Carey's best work. Obviously, I'm only 180 pages in, but I'm really enjoying getting more from characters that I love. But I feel a bit conflicted to tell you to go and get this unless you've read the Cashel Dart series and liked it, and then I'll be like, yeah, go for it. If you want more from the characters, more from this world, then pick it up. Otherwise, I actually don't know if I would recommend it. It does feel a bit confusing because you're not getting all the details surrounding the politics, which makes sense from Joyce's perspective. As I've said, he doesn't know really what's going on. He's just like, I'm just here to protect people. I'm a bodyguard, basically. I'm a very fancy bodyguard, and I've got no idea what these politics are in, and this isn't what I signed up to do, but I have to do as I'm told, so I'm just gonna do this, and I'm just gonna try and keep her safe. Things are going wrong everywhere. And that's his perspective on things, but I do think that could be frustrating for those that prefer to know what's going on rather than being told, oh, this is a political thing that's going on, but you're not going to know the details of this because he doesn't know the details of this. But if you read the other book, you'd know the details of it. I suppose it depends with the rest of the book whether he does come to understand it all and whether it does get explained. I feel like if that happens, then this is a good place to start if you find the intimate intricacies feel a bit daunted. But I think if it doesn't ever get clarified, then maybe this isn't the place to start. Like, again, it's up to you. Some people are going to be fine with it, some people won't be, but I just feel a bit clearly conflicted about this. Anyway, we are ending on a small book haul again, because I did go book shopping. So I picked up from Forbidden Planet a book for 99p. I love their sale section, it's brilliant. And this is Marie Brennan's With Fate Conspire. Do I know this series? No. I have one of the books in the series. I don't know which book that is. I think that was the third book in this series. I'm not sure what this one is. Oh, there you go. Book 4. We've got book 4 in the Onyx Court series. And I have been told that the first 2 books in this series you don't necessarily have to read. So I've got the third. I now have the fourth. I just keep picking up Marie Brennan books. I see Marie Brennan, I pick them up. Marie Brennan is an author of my favourite series. I know Cushel's Dart I absolutely love, but a recent favourite series is The Natural History of Dragons, and I love that series so much. It's a fantastic series. I've talked about it on here a lot, and Marie Brennan wrote it, and so I've been picking up anything that I see with Marie Brennan's name, and if I don't own it, I'm getting it. I really think she's a great author, and I'm excited to try. However, I have heard mixed things about the Onyx Court series. It seems to be a bit of a Marmite thing. Apparently the third book is where it gets better, so I'm happy to start there. I think because the first 2 books take place like 100 years previous and things like that. So point is, I got this. I don't really know what the series is about. I think we've got Fae. Yes, we've got Fae living in the Onyx Court, and it's also like an underground city to London. Sounds pretty good to me. I'm excited to get into that series. Haven't actually started it yet, but I couldn't say no to a book for 99p. And then I also picked up The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Core, and this was again in the sale. I'm very intrigued. This looks so freaking scary. It's actually a tiny little novella, but I really do like oceanic horror. It's something that I discovered in June as something that I really like. I'm just continuing on with that. Not sure 100% what this is about, but I love the end pages, love the cover. We're gonna give it a try. Danny did mention briefly that, because she's on my Discord as well, I'll again have a channel linked below, that this is about like an oceanic horror and what happens when it comes onto land, but I really don't want to know much about it because it is such a short book. So I'm very, very excited to give this one a go, and I really do want more oceanic horror. So again, if you have any recommendations, put those in the comments below. I'm not a massive fan of horror books, but oceanic horror seems to be my jam. And that is it for this week. So thank you so much for watching. I'm really pleased with the fact that we got one of the bigger books off my TBR done, and we've started the full moon readathon with this one fulfilling 2 prompts, one for the devil, one for the vampire. And next week, if I can read the other book for those and then get the lifestyle prompts, because I still haven't done those, it will be perfect. It'll be a great time, and I would have completed 2 characters. I wonder if this could work. No, it's definitely not going to. I was like, oh, maybe this will work for the skeleton prompt, because you have to read a hardback book and something that's between 206 to 300 pages. But this book is 125 pages long, so that doesn't work. Never mind. Anyway, right, I'm still rambling. Let's wrap this video up here. Hopefully my rambles about Casil 7 actually made sense, and if it isn't, then put it in the comments below if you are interested in this book but I didn't make any sense, and I'll try and type out a better response for you. But you have to let me know, have you read the Blade Itself series? Have you read the other standalones? All, you know, usual things. Let me know how you're doing, what you're up to, what you're reading, all the things. I need to stop talking. So if you've made it this far, then leave a moon emoji for the full moon readathon, and I will catch you in the next video. So if you have enjoyed this video, please give it that thumbs up, subscribe and comment. Those 3 things really help this channel grow. My social media links and anyone I've mentioned will be linked below, and I will catch you in the next video.